I never thought my life would turn into a twisted plotline straight out of a drama series, but here I am, reliving it all in my head. My name's Mark, and I was married to Sarah for 6 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. We laughed, traveled, and built a home together. It felt perfect most days, but there were cracks I chose to ignore. Maybe I was naive, or maybe I just didn't want to see the truth. Things began to shift subtly. Sarah started coming home later from work, often with vague excuses. The late-night business meetings turned into regular occurrences. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted her. But then there were the little things. The way her phone beeped at all hours, her sudden bursts of irritation when I asked her about it, and the evenings when she would be short with me over the simplest questions. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just stress from her job. But the real kicker came when I woke up one night to her calling out James. I wasn't James. I felt a chill run down my spine that night, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. It wasn't just a slip of the tongue. It was a name, a person. I remember lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my heart racing while she murmured sweet nothings, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing in my mind. I tossed and turned, trying to convince myself that I was overreacting. Maybe James was just some work colleague or a name she had heard on TV. But as days passed, I noticed her behaviors ramp up even more. More late nights, more secretive phone calls, and an unmistakable distance growing between us. It gnawed at me until I could no longer ignore it. Then one afternoon, while cleaning out the back of the closet, I stumbled upon an envelope. It was tucked behind some old shoes, dusty and forgotten, but when I pulled it out, my heart sank. Inside were hotel receipts, dated over the last few months, each one accompanied by a handwritten note. "Can't wait to see you again, James. Love, Sarah." I felt the world tilt on its axis. The room spun as I stood there, clutching the envelope. Like it was a ticking bomb. I replayed every suspicious glance, every late-night excuse. It all clicked into place. The trust I had placed in her shattered in an instant, and the betrayal felt like a slap across the face. Confrontation was inevitable. I couldn't let this go without a fight, although I had no idea how to approach it. Part of me wanted to scream at her, demand answers, but the other part feared what I might hear. I spent the rest of that day in a haze, planning my words and rehearsing the confrontation in my head. Would I be calm? Would I cry? I had no clue, but I knew I had to confront her. When Sarah finally arrived home that evening, I felt all the energy in the room shift. It was like a storm was brewing. I did my best to keep my voice steady as I asked her about the receipts. At first, she feigned ignorance, her face morphing into that familiar mask of denial. Classic Sarah. It was as if I was trying to accuse her of a petty theft rather than infidelity. I pushed harder, showing her the receipts, each one heavier than the last. Her demeanor shifted from confusion to anger. She began to deflect, saying I was being paranoid, that I was overreacting to nothing. But her panicked eyes betrayed her. I could see the lies forming in her mind, and I felt a sick sense of satisfaction knowing I had caught her in the act. As she launched into a tirade of excuses, each one worse than the last, I felt my heart harden. She claimed I was too focused on work, that I pushed her away. It was infuriating, and the anger bubbled within me. I wanted to yell, to shake her, and demand she admit what was really happening. But instead, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I was losing the person I thought I knew, and it hurt more than I could express. I realized then that this wasn't just about James. This was about Sarah and the woman she had become. What had once been love was now a breeding ground for betrayal. I felt a flood of emotions: shock, anger, disappointment. But deep down, there was also a weird sense of clarity. I had a decision to make, a path to choose. To be continued. The night dragged on, the air thick with unspoken words and heavy emotions. My mind was a whirlwind of disbelief and anger. How had we ended up here? It felt surreal, as if I were watching a tragic play unfold, and I was just a character doomed to suffer. I sat across from Sarah, her eyes darting away from mine, trying to maintain her composure amid the crumbling facade of our marriage. After her initial outburst, I took a deep breath, attempting to regain control over my racing heart. "This isn't just about me being paranoid, Sarah. "You've been lying to me," I said, my voice low but steady. I wanted to keep my cool, but the hurt was bubbling beneath the surface, ready to explode. "You've been seeing this guy, James. I found the receipts. How long has this been going on?" Her reaction was immediate, a mixture of anger and deflection. "You don't understand. I didn't want you to find out this way. I was going to tell you," she shot back, her voice rising. The tears welling in her eyes seemed insincere, merely a tactic to elicit sympathy. I wasn't falling for it. I knew her too well. "Tell me what, Sarah?" I pressed, leaning forward. "That you were cheating on me. That you had the audacity to carry on with this guy while I'm here thinking everything is fine." The more I spoke, the more the anger bubbled up inside me. She opened her mouth to respond, but for once the words seemed to escape her. The silence stretched awkwardly between us, thick with tension. I could see her weighing her options, trying to find a way to twist the narrative in her favor. It was exhausting to watch her struggle, and I was done with the games. "Just admit it. How long has this been going on?" I demanded, unable to hold back the rising tide of emotion. Her gaze dropped, and for a fleeting moment I thought I saw guilt flicker in her eyes. "A few months," she finally confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The admission hit me like a physical blow. "But Mark, I love you." "It was just a mistake." "Just a mistake?" I echoed incredulously. "You don't just accidentally sleep with someone. You made a choice, Sarah," over and over again. My voice shook with the weight of my emotions, a mix of betrayal and sorrow. "What about our vows? What about the life we built together?" She reached out, but I recoiled, her touch as unwelcome as the betrayal itself. "You pushed me away. You're always working late, and I felt neglected," she started, but I cut her off. "This isn't about my job. This is about your choices." I realized I was shouting, but I didn't care. I needed to make her understand the gravity of what she had done. "You could have come to me. You could have talked to me. Instead, you chose to sleep with another man." For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. Sarah's bravado began to fade as reality hit her. "I thought I could handle it," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought it wouldn't mean anything." "But it did," I replied, my tone more subdued now. "It meant everything." In that moment, I felt a shift within myself. The hurt and anger were still there, but clarity began to emerge through the fog. I realized I was at a crossroads. I could either let this situation destroy me, or I could take control of my own narrative. This wasn't just about Sarah's betrayal. It was about reclaiming my own sense of self-worth. After she had exhausted her excuses, I quietly stood up, taking a step back from the emotional battlefield we'd been drawn into. "I need some space," I said, my voice steady. "I can't talk to you right now. I don't even know how I feel." As I walked away, I felt a mix of relief and despair. I needed to think, to process everything that had happened. The image of Sarah with James gnawed at me, but I also felt a determination rising. I wanted to figure out what this meant for me, how I could move forward. The next few days were a blur. I stayed at a friend's place, trying to make sense of my emotions. I replayed every moment in my head, every laugh, every fight, and every intimate moment we shared. What was real? What was a lie? I felt like I was unraveling at the seams. My friends were supportive, offering to listen while I poured out my heart. They encouraged me to focus on myself, to take care of my emotional well-being. But even with their support, the betrayal haunted me. I kept picturing her with him, the laughter they shared, the intimacy I'd thought was solely ours. Eventually, I found myself standing in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. Who was I now? A man betrayed, stripped of his trust, searching for a path forward. I needed to make a decision, not just for my marriage, but for my own sanity. I pondered if I could ever forgive her, or if rebuilding was even possible. Part of me wanted to confront her again, to lay everything out on the table and see if there was anything worth salvaging. But another part of me wondered if I could even bear to look her in the eyes again. I took a deep breath, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. To be continued. After a few days of solitude and reflection, I felt a sense of urgency to confront Sarah again. I needed clarity, and I owed it to myself to understand her perspective, even if it made my skin crawl. I returned to our home, the place that now felt foreign and tainted. I could practically feel the weight of betrayal hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. As I entered the house, memories flooded back, the laughter in the kitchen, the warmth of our shared life. Now all I felt was coldness. I found Sarah sitting on the couch, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying. Despite my anger, there was a part of me that still felt pity for her. She looked lost, a shell of the woman I once loved. "Mark," she started, her voice trembling as if she were stepping on eggshells. "I've been thinking a lot about everything about us. I want to make things right." I could barely contain my skepticism. "Make things right," I repeated, incredulous. "You think saying sorry will fix this? You slept with someone else, Sarah. You shattered my trust." I know," she said, desperation creeping into her tone. "But I realize now how much I love you, how much I've taken for granted. James was a mistake, a lapse in judgment. It didn't mean anything. You're the one I want to be with." She reached out, but I stepped back, needing distance from her touch. "If it didn't mean anything, why did you let it go this far? How could you betray me like that? You could have ended our marriage instead of cheating," I said, feeling my heart race at the thought of her spending intimate moments with another man. "Please just listen," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I was feeling so alone. You were always working and I felt neglected. I thought I could handle it, but I can't live with the guilt anymore. I miss you, I miss us." Her words struck a chord, but anger bubbled up inside me again. "You don't get to play the victim here. You made a choice time and time again. I was here willing to be present, but you chose to push me away." "I know," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I messed up, but can't we try to work through this together? I don't want to lose you." I felt torn. Part of me wanted to believe her, to give her another chance. But the other part of me screamed that this was just about love. It was about respect and trust. "How can I trust you again?" I asked, my voice more subdued. "What can you possibly say to make me believe that this won't happen again?" "I'll do anything," she said, her eyes wide with desperation. "I'll go to therapy. I'll be more open with you. I'll make this work. Just don't walk away from me." The idea of therapy hung in the air between us, a potential lifeline for our failing marriage. But could I really bear to sit with her in a therapist's office, dissecting our relationship with the knowledge of her infidelity still fresh in my heart? It felt insurmountable. "I need time to think," I finally said, my heart heavy. "I can't make any decisions right now. I need to process everything that's happened." She nodded, understanding but clearly still desperate. "I can wait. I just don't want to lose you." As I left the room, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I needed to be alone with my thoughts again, to sort through the chaos. I decided to head to my favorite spot, a small park nearby where I used to unwind after work. It was quiet and peaceful, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in my mind. Sitting on a bench, I watched the leaves flutter in the breeze, the sun filtering through the branches. I tried to distract myself with the beauty of nature, but all I could think about was Sarah and the betrayal that had upended my world. I wondered if there was a possibility of reconciliation. Could I ever forgive her? What if we tried therapy but the foundation had crumbled beneath us? The thought was exhausting. I felt trapped between a desire to salvage our relationship and the knowledge that it might never be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and the emotional roller coaster continued to take its toll. I vacillated between anger, sadness, and occasional moments of hope. My friends urged me to move on, to cut ties and focus on finding happiness elsewhere. But I couldn't just walk away from everything we had built together. Meanwhile, Sarah was persistent. She texted me daily, trying to reach out to reassure me of her commitment. I'd respond sparingly, unsure of what to say. It was a bizarre dance of reconciliation tinged with betrayal, and I was struggling to find my footing. After some contemplation, I finally agreed to give therapy a shot. Not because I was convinced we could salvage our marriage, but because I needed clarity. I wanted to understand how we both arrived at this point and whether there was a chance to rebuild, if not as a couple, then at least as individuals. When the day of our first therapy session arrived, I felt a mix of anxiety and dread. I wasn't sure what to expect or if I could even face Sarah without the anger surfacing again, but I knew I had to try. As we sat in the waiting room, the tension was palpable. I stole a glance at her, and for a moment I saw the woman I fell in love with, but the image was quickly overshadowed by the reality of what she had done. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what was to come. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but I had to find a way to navigate through this chaos, whether it led to reconciliation or closure. To be continued. As we walked into the therapist's office, the air felt thick with tension and uncertainty. The room was warm, filled with soft lighting and comfortable seats that didn't quite feel welcoming. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with a calm demeanor, greeted us with a gentle smile, and I could see Sarah relax slightly at her presence. I, however, felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. "Thank you both for being here today," the therapist began. "I know this can be a challenging process, but it's a step towards understanding and healing. I want you both to feel safe to express yourselves openly." I nodded, but my throat felt tight. I could feel Sarah's nervous energy beside me, her foot tapping lightly against the floor. I captured a glimpse of her before I turned away, trying to focus on what the therapist was saying. "Let's start by discussing how you both feel about the current state of your relationship," she suggested, her voice soothing. I glanced at Sarah, searching for the right words. "I feel betrayed," I said bluntly. "I don't know how to look at her the same way anymore. I don't trust her." Sarah's face fell, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I understand," she said softly, her voice breaking. "I've messed up, and I know I can't take that back, but I'm here because I want to fix this. I want to be honest with you, Mark." Honesty would have been a good start, I snapped, unable to suppress the anger bubbling beneath the surface. "But you chose to hide everything instead." "Mark, please," Sarah pleaded, her voice trembling. "I know I hurt you. I thought I could find a way to cope with my feelings without involving you. I was wrong." The therapist interjected, her tone calm yet firm. "It seems like there's a lot of pain on both sides. Sarah, can you tell Mark what led you to feel that way?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. I was grateful to the therapist for at least trying to facilitate some semblance of communication, but the anger still clawed at my chest. I'd heard Sarah's excuses before, and I wondered if I was just wasting my time. "I felt lonely," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were always working late, and I didn't know how to reach out to you. I thought if I could find some connection with someone else, it would help fill that void, but it didn't. It just made everything worse." I frowned, the pain of her words slicing through me. "So cheating was your solution?" I shot back, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. "You could have come to me. You could have told me you were unhappy." "I know that now," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I was foolish and scared. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I lost sight of what mattered most. I lost sight of you." The therapist intervened again, redirecting the conversation. "It's clear that both of you are hurt, but it's essential to focus on how to move forward. Mark, what do you need from Sarah to begin rebuilding trust?" I hesitated. I had thought about this question countless times, but articulating it felt daunting. "I need transparency," I said slowly. "I need to know that when you say something, I can believe you. I want to feel secure in our relationship again." "I can do that," Sarah promised, her eyes wide with desperation. "I'll be open about everything. I'll share my phone, my messages, whatever it takes. I want to show you that I'm committed to fixing this." "And what about James?" I asked, the name catching in my throat. "What's going to happen there? You need to cut ties with him completely if we're going to move forward." "I will," she assured me, though I could sense the hesitation in her voice. "I'll block him. I never want to go back to that place. I want to focus on us, on rebuilding what we had." As we continued to talk, I noticed movements in Sarah's body language, the way she clenched her fists or shifted her weight. I could see she was genuinely remorseful, but there was also a fear in her eyes. She was scared of losing me for good, and I felt conflicted by that realization. "Trust takes time, Sarah," I reminded her. "You can't expect me to just forget everything that's happened. It's going to take work from both of us." "I know," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm willing to put in the effort. I want to make things right, Mark. Please give me that chance." The session continued, and we delved deeper into our feelings and frustrations. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the turning point we needed. After the session ended, we walked out into the parking lot in silence. It felt strange to be next to her, carrying a mix of shared history and newfound vulnerability. I wanted to scream, to cry, to express the weight of my heartache, but I also wanted to acknowledge the small progress we had made. I'm not going to say this is easy. I finally broke the silence. But I'm willing to try. I just hope you mean what you say. I do, Mark. I promise, she said, her voice earnest. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. As we drove home, the silence was heavy but not entirely unpleasant. The tension remained, but there was a glimmer of something more, an ember of possibility. I knew it would be a long journey, but at least we were taking the first steps toward healing. In the weeks that followed, we continued with therapy, and I tried to navigate the emotional maze of our relationship. There were days when I felt optimistic, and others when the weight of betrayal threatened to crush me. I had moments of vulnerability where I questioned if I was making a mistake by even considering reconciliation. Sarah put in the effort, showing me her phone and being more transparent than ever. She made a genuine effort to include me in her life again, inviting me to join her for lunch at work and trying to rekindle the intimacy we had lost. Yet there were still moments of doubt that crept in, whispers in the back of my mind reminding me of the hurt. But as we worked through our issues, I began to notice glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the laughter, the warmth, the connection. It was as if the fog was slowly beginning to lift, revealing the possibility of something new, even if it meant starting again from the ground up. However, every time I saw a text come through on her phone, my heart would race with anxiety. It was getting better, but I knew I needed to establish boundaries for my own peace of mind. I decided to have an open conversation with Sarah about my feelings, wanting to make sure we were both on the same page moving forward. So, I mustered the courage to express the lingering doubts that haunted me, hoping for clarity and reassurance. To be continued. The weeks rolled on in a strange blend of progress and setbacks. Therapy sessions became a routine, a structured environment where we could peel back the layers of our relationship and confront the raw emotions lingering beneath the surface. Each time we sat in that room, I felt hope flickering alongside the pain, but I knew we had a long road ahead. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, I decided it was time for a candid conversation with Sarah. I needed to lay everything out on the table, to voice my fears and uncertainties about our future. I wanted transparency, and I wanted her to understand just how deeply her betrayal had impacted me. "Can we talk?" I asked as we settled onto the couch at home, the familiar spot where we used to share laughter and plans for our future. Now it felt like a battlefield. "Of course," she replied, her eyes searching mine for the warmth that had been missing. "What's on your mind?" "I'm still struggling, Sarah," I admitted, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "I want to believe we can get through this, but I need to be honest about my feelings. It's hard for me to shake off the anxiety every time I see your phone light up. I don't want to feel like this." She nodded, her expression serious. "I understand. I know I've given you reasons to doubt. I'm really trying to be better. I want to rebuild that trust, Mark." "It's not just about trying harder," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "It's about creating a space where we both feel secure. I want to know I can trust you without constantly worrying about James or any other guy." Sarah's face fell, and for a moment I saw the vulnerability in her eyes. "I'll do my best, I promise. I don't want to lose you, but I need to know what you need from me to help you feel more secure." Taking a deep breath, I laid out my thoughts. "I think we need some boundaries. I need to feel like I'm not competing for your attention. Maybe you should take a break from any social situations where you might run into James. I don't want you to put yourself in a situation where there's temptation." She took a moment to consider my suggestion, her brow furrowed in thought. "You're right. I can do that. I don't want to be around him, and I'll make it clear that I'm committed to you. I don't want any distractions. Also, I think it would help if we had more open conversations about our days," I continued. "Just little check-ins, what's bothering us, what we're excited about. I want to feel like we're a team again." "I can do that," she responded with a nod. "I need that too. I want to be open with you about everything. I promise to share my thoughts and feelings more." It felt good to lay everything out and have her respond positively. We spent the next hour talking about our past, our shared moments, the dreams we had, and the future we wanted. Every time we laughed, a part of the heaviness lifted. I could see the flicker of hope in her eyes, and for the first time in a while, I felt a little lighter. As the days turned into weeks, I noticed a shift in our dynamic. Sarah worked hard to be more transparent, leaving her phone in plain sight and engaging in conversations where she openly shared her thoughts and feelings. I felt a sense of reassurance that had been absent for so long. Yet every now and then, a shadow of doubt would creep back in. One day, while I was at home, I received a notification from our shared online calendar. It was a reminder for Sarah's work event. I had known about it, but what caught my eye was the note she had added: "Dinner with James afterwards." My heart sank, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. I felt the anger bubble up again, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was a test. Hadn't we talked about boundaries? I needed to confront this right away. I grabbed my keys and headed out to meet her at the restaurant, my heart racing with each passing moment. When I arrived, I spotted her sitting at a table with a few of her colleagues. I felt a knot in my stomach as I approached her. The sight of James at the next table sent my emotions spiraling. He was laughing and animated, completely at ease, while Sarah seemed tense. "Can we talk?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady despite the anger simmering just beneath the surface. Sarah turned to me, her eyes wide with surprise. "Mark, what are you doing here?" "I saw the calendar, Sarah. I thought we talked about avoiding situations with him," I said, my voice edged with frustration. "How can I trust you if you're sitting here with him?" "I didn't think it would be an issue," she stammered, glancing nervously at James, who had now turned his attention toward us, a smirk on his face. "This is just a work dinner. I wasn't planning to see him alone." "It doesn't matter," I shot back, my voice rising. "You knew I'd have a problem with this," you said. "You wanted to rebuild trust, and yet you're here with him, laughing like nothing's wrong." Her face fell, and I could see the regret wash over her. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you in this position. I didn't think seeing him in a group would be a big deal." "No big deal." I felt my heart racing, anger flooding my senses. "You're still choosing to put yourself in a situation that could lead to temptation. How is that rebuilding our relationship?" As the tension hung thick in the air, I could feel the eyes of her colleagues on us, judging, trying to understand the unfolding drama. Sarah's colleagues began to excuse themselves, sensing the mounting tension. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away, not wanting her touch to make me feel any weaker. "Mark, please," she pleaded, desperation etched across her face. "I messed up. I didn't realize how this would affect you. I promise I'll fix this." "It's not just about fixing it after the fact, Sarah," I said, my voice low but firm. "You've got to truly understand the impact of your actions. This has to change now, or I don't know where we're headed." As I looked into her eyes, I saw a mixture of fear and determination. I knew we had reached a critical moment, a point where we either pushed through the pain together or allowed it to drive a wedge between us once and for all. "Let's leave," I said firmly, feeling the weight of the conversation and the emotion swirling around us. "We need to talk about this. It's time to be honest with ourselves." We walked out of the restaurant in silence, both of us lost in our thoughts. I felt the emotional turmoil inside of me, but I also felt a sense of resolve. We had to confront these issues head-on if we were going to have a chance at rebuilding what we once had. As we drove home, I recognized that this was a pivotal moment, a chance to redefine our relationship, not just as a couple but as individuals navigating the aftermath of betrayal. To be continued. The car ride home was taut with tension. I could feel the heat radiating off Sarah, her conflicted emotions palpable in the silence. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white as I focused on the road ahead. My mind was racing, trying to process the gravity of what had just happened. Once we arrived home, I couldn't hold back the flood of emotions any longer. "You need to understand how serious this is, Sarah," I said, my voice steady but filled with urgency. "You keep saying you want to rebuild trust, but each time you allow James back into your life, it feels like you're betraying me all over again." "I know," she replied, her voice trembling. "I really didn't think it would matter since it was a group dinner, but I see now how that was naive. I don't want to hurt you, Mark. I want to be with you, I promise." "Promising isn't enough anymore," I said, my heart aching. "I need actions that align with your words. I need to feel secure in this relationship, and right now I don't. You can't keep inviting temptation into our lives and expect everything to be okay. The tears brimmed in her eyes as frustration mounted. I understand. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to learn and grow. I just want a chance to prove to you that I can change. Then let's start with the boundaries, I replied, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil. No more contact with him at all, no group dinners, no casual conversations. This is about protecting what we have and allowing us to heal. I can do that, she said earnestly, her voice steadying. I'll cut him out completely. You have my word. I'll talk to my boss about not being on projects with him. I'm serious about this, Mark. We settled into a long conversation that evening, discussing how we could both move forward. I expressed my need for reassurance and clarity, and she shared her willingness to be more open about her feelings and fears. It felt like a breakthrough, like we were beginning to find common ground again. Over the next few days, her commitment to our agreement became evident. She unfollowed James on social media, blocked his number, and even spoke to her boss about limiting any work interactions. It was a relief to see her taking proactive steps, but I knew that actions wouldn't erase the past. We continued with therapy sessions, digging deeper into the roots of our issues. We learned to communicate more effectively, addressing the pain without letting anger take over. I still had moments of doubt and insecurity, but acknowledging those feelings helped us work through them together. At home, we began to reestablish the small rituals that made our relationship special. We started cooking dinner together again, sharing laughter as we experimented with new recipes. We took walks in the park, talking about everything and anything, slowly rebuilding the connection we once had. Yet flashes of uncertainty would inevitably creep in. I would occasionally catch her lost in thought, and the fear of her slipping away would gnaw at me. I learned to voice my concerns, knowing that transparency was key to healing. "Are you okay?" I'd ask when I sensed her withdrawing. "Do you still want this?" Her responses were always reassuring. "I do, Mark. I promise I'm committed to this. I love you and I want us to work." As the weeks went by, I found myself learning how to forgive, not just Sarah, but myself as well. I had to let go of the past while still acknowledging the hurt it caused. It was a process, and I often reminded myself that healing wasn't linear. There were ups and downs, but the overall trajectory was one of growth. One evening, after a particularly good session, I found us cuddled up on the couch, watching a movie, something we hadn't done in ages. As I glanced at Sarah, the warmth in her eyes reminded me of why I had fallen in love with her in the first place. "Do you remember our first date?" she asked, a playful smile creeping across her lips. "Of course," I chuckled, the memories flooding back. "You were so nervous you spilled your drink all over the table. I thought you were going to walk out." She laughed, her eyes twinkling. "But I didn't," I replied, my heart swelling with affection. "I stayed because even then I could see the spark in you." We shared stories and laughter, the bond between us feeling stronger with each passing moment. In that space, I realized we were carving a new path, one that honored our past while embracing the potential for a brighter future. In the weeks that followed, I started to feel a renewed sense of hope. The more we worked on our relationship, the more I began to trust Sarah again. There were still challenges, but we faced them together, united in our commitment to each other. As I looked back on this journey, I recognized that while the road had been fraught with pain, it had also brought us closer in ways I never expected. We learned to communicate better and confront our vulnerabilities, and I began to see the depth of Sarah's remorse and her desire to repair what had been broken. This experience taught me the importance of setting boundaries and the necessity of honest dialogue. I learned that love can be tested, but it can also endure if both partners are willing to grow and fight for the relationship. So here I am, standing on the precipice of a new beginning. Our journey isn't perfect, but it's ours. And as we continue to navigate this new chapter, I feel a sense of gratitude for the lessons learned and the love that still holds us together. Life is unpredictable, but facing it together gives me hope for the future, and that's a place I'm ready to be.